Hey, what's up everyone? Steven here from Horizon. And so today we're going to go through some troubleshooting tips to help you get the most out of your fuel cell car kit. So if you're at this point, you've already gone through the whole process of building the car, you've made your own chassis, you've put everything together, and you've run the car, and you've probably noticed, hey, I might have run into a couple of issues. So we're going to address some of those issues and teach you the best ways to get around them so you can get the most out of your car. First and foremost, biggest tip I can offer: use distilled water anytime you're working with our fuel cells. The reason you use distilled water, preferably deionized, but distilled is also works well. Regular tap water and mineral water or drinking water has minerals in the water. Those minerals can get inside the cell. There's a very small layer here inside the cell, and the minerals can damage that layer. Especially over time, there's content in the water. And so if you leave them in there for a month, a year, when you come back to use them, they probably won't work very well. And it's because you're using water with high mineral content in it. So do yourself a favor, go get some distilled water or some deionized water if you can find it. Your cells will be much happier, they'll run much longer, and you're gonna have a lot of good experimentations out of that. So on that note, when you first pull these cells out of your box, you might notice that they don't work 100% great. And the reason for that is because the cells work really well when they're humid inside. You need a little bit of water inside these to kind of get them moving and get them going. So I would say if you notice it's not working too well the first time, give it another cycle. Give it 1 or 2 more cycles of just adding a little bit more, a few more milliliters of water in there on each side of the cell, your positive and your negative side. Run it through, fill it up, put it to a load, empty it out, do that a couple times. By the second or third time, you should notice that the cell will start working a lot better. Once it's hydrated, once it's humid inside the cell, it'll start working a lot better, and you actually get a lot more distance out of it. So another trick to think about. The third, tip we can say that we'll offer is about recharging the cell. A lot of times people think, okay, I charged it, I put everything together, I run it, now it's done, I can't use it again. That is not true. Here's the car that we built a little while ago. And essentially, I'm going to take our check valves here and just repurpose them. Okay, because we need check valves for this to work, otherwise our hydrogen is going to escape. So we put them off this real quick, make life easy. There definitely is an art to putting these on there, and it takes some time. Okay, so recharging the cell. Now what we're gonna do, it's a pretty easy process. Take the negative lead out, the positive lead out, get your battery box, and you're going to attach them here and here, and you're going to turn your battery box on, wait a few seconds. Now if you notice that the air is escaping through one side, you can kind of pinch these. That's why I put these here, so that you force the air to go one direction, fills them up, and we're good. So as you can see from here, our syringes are filling up and everything's working great. So we'll detach these, we'll put them back in, reconnect our leads to the motor, and our fuel cell is working happy and it's working well. We'll just push that off to the side, and that'll go for a little while. Now if you notice that you do that and one or both of the sides are not filling up, there's a couple things you want to do. First thing you want to do is definitely check and make sure that your connections from the battery are in all the way and that there's no problems there. Second, check and make sure your batteries are still good. That sounds pretty simple, but I've seen it happen a number of times where someone swears they're doing everything right, and then they find out that the batteries end up not working because the batteries are dead. So put some fresh batteries in there, check the leads. That should solve most of your problems. If you do notice from there, hey, I'm still one or both of the syringes still not filling up, a couple other things you can do. Check where your connection points are from your syringes, from the fuel cell, and from your check valve here. And just make sure there's no tears or rips. Again, especially if you're working with kids, when they use the scissors to cut the lines, or for whatever reason, things may not be perfect. They may not have put the connections on all the way. So just double check your connections and make sure your connections are good and there's no leaks. If you've determined that all of that is fine and you're still not getting gas generating in one or both of the cylinders, at this point what you want to do is you want to rehydrate the cell. So all I will do from here is you will take your syringe, pop it off, get your distilled water, fill it up with a couple milliliters of distilled water, stick it back through, put a little bit more on the oxygen and the hydrogen side, and you should be good to go. No problems there. So go through that. If you're not getting any gas, check for leaks. If leaks are all well, double check and just make sure you put a little bit more water in there. It'll go through your cell. Everything should work nice and fine at that point. So from here, you're noticing that, hey, okay, I've done everything that you've said, but the motor doesn't work. You know, what do I do now? So I've checked everything. I know that I have batteries in our battery charger. We know that there's enough hydrogen, there's no leaks, the hydrogen system's fine, but the battery's not working. What can happen sometimes is, especially if you're working with kids, make sure these are pushed in all the way. Again, it seems very simple, but it's a common mistake that I've seen. Another thing to consider is, again, when you're working with kids, these leads here, they are pretty sturdy, but they are not indestructible. And especially where these wires clip into your alligator clips, those can come off sometimes. And especially with kids messing them and they like to whip them around and do the things that they do, those can come undone. So double check those, make sure those aren't done. Also, the little tabs coming off of the motor are pretty small. And if you have a kid who's a little bit rough, not careful, those can pull off. You can actually break those off. So again, you want to be kind of gentle with this. They're relatively sturdy, but they're not indestructible. So just keep that in mind. And then if you notice that, hey, everything's working, all the leads are fine, everything's going good, but it's still not working, make sure you purge the actual cell. And to do that, simply all you do is, first of all, make sure these are not clipped, right? And make sure you're on the side here, as we can see, so unclip these. And all you're gonna do is just simply push this through until you see a little bit of water come out of this. And it's really gonna be on the oxygen side. You're gonna do it on the hydrogen side as well, but can we see that little bit of water coming out there? That's usually all you need. Just purge a little bit of water and this thing will start running nicely. You need to do it with the hydrogen as well. Just purge a little bit of water through there and everything should work. Let's test it. Yes, it does work. So things to consider: make sure you purge the gas, make sure you check the wires, and just make sure that there's no leaks in your system. Again, very simple stuff, but it's very important that you make sure this simple stuff is taken care of. One of the last things that I would like to talk about is what I call the death bubble. And that comes from a blown seal in the cell. Basically on the top here of the cell, you will notice that bubbles will come out, and I will demonstrate this for you. Let me grab some of these purge valves. And the purge valves are actually the reason that this can happen. And I will explain why. So everything's good, this should be working. You go to purge the cell, and I'm gonna go ahead and simulate this here because this is the reason why it happens. If you leave these clips clipped, right? Or if you have your purge valve on wrong, this is the correct way. If you have the purge valve connected in the middle, okay, this will also do it. Basically, and you're gonna notice it's really gonna happen on the hydrogen side, but you have someone who's really excited, they go in and push way too much pressure on it, and at a good steady rate should be roughly about a milliliter per second, maybe even less. Maybe just right about that rate, nice and slow, should be fine. That's definitely about where you want to go. But if you have someone that wants to go a little bit too fast, too quick, because they're real excited, you may notice water and bubbles starting to come out of the top like that. If that happens, the cell is basically done. It may still work slightly, but the cell is basically done. From there, if you get a little bit of silicone, you can kind of put a nice little layer there, maybe even some crazy glue would work. You can kind of save them, but basically if it starts to do this, the cell's basically done. And this is 9 times out of 10, this is the reason why. I will even say 10 times out of 10. Basically every time I've seen this happen, it's because this is either on wrong or this was left clipped on. So just make sure that it flows free. Make sure you have everything connected correctly so that when you do go to purge the cell, again, it'll just keep going and you'll have moving wheels, need to add more hydrogen, but at this point, we've kind of gone through most of the main things for just troubleshooting, some of the tips and tricks that we like to do, things that we've seen from this product. So if you're following these guidelines, you should have no problems. Again, if you get the death bubble, call your manufacturer. You're gonna have to order a couple of new of these cells. Part of the game, it happens. But from here, I say good luck with building your cars, and let's see how far we can make them run. Thanks, guys.